ค่ะ welcome to ASEAN Talks on ASEAN TV. I am Tulip, Naksompop, your host in this episode. And toward the 2015 AAC, one of the important areas that everybody is talking about is the ASEAN connectivity. And important part to get to that is the logistic between the ASEAN countries. So today we have, I think, more than expert. We have two persons, the best person that we can get to talk about this topic, Dr. Ruth Banomyong, Associate Professor, Dr. Ruth Banomyong from the Department of International Business, Thammasat University, and also Mr. Chalerm Sak Kanchanawarin, the Managing Director of Hascom Logistic Management. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ
Thank you very much. Finally, we able to get you guys together. So, Dr. Ruth, let's start it. We were talking after the flood about Thailand become the logistic hub of ASEAN, and because what happened is kind of test for the country that it shows that we are not really there. So now it has been about 5-6 months. Have you changed your mind?
No, not really. I think one of the key problems is we like to use terminology that sounds very nice, like becoming a hub. But the reality is we need to understand what is the nature of a hub and what are the kind of activities, especially logistics activities, that we can do in that particular hub. I would say it would be very difficult for Thailand to be a logistics hub for all the dimensions of logistics. I think that's really the most critical part, and we need probably to be more specific in what we want to be. But of course, it's not wrong to dream. We always need to dream.
Right. Kun Chalerm Sak, you were saying off camera when we talked a little earlier, yes, we can be the logistic hub.
I think we have to analyze ourselves where we are strong at. I mean, I don't believe that Thailand we are poor in everything, right?
Of course.
Yeah, that's why I think, okay, when we talk about being the hub of the ASEAN, we have to see in which area that we want to be, as Ajahn said. So I think for Thailand, of course, if we talk about the maritime transport, it may not be easy, right? Because we're not the centralized, country in the whole region. So, but we have national airlines like Thai Airways. So I think in terms of airline transport, we can also become a hub. But one of the critical points is how we can integrate one mode to another mode. I mean, in normal term, we call multimodal transportation. So that means still the connection or the connectivity to other modes is still a critical issue that we have to think about. But of course, as a Thailand roadmap, we have to evaluate how we go step by step to establish, the milestone of the country in terms of logistic hub, in which area and in which part. And also, we are always thinking, a little bit too far or too
Right.
big. Like we want to become the hub of the ASEAN.
It sounds nice.
Yeah, it sounds nice, but in practice, I think we can or we should start from being the logistic hub of probably Indochina,
Right.
from the road transport that we are trying to develop. But of course, there are some obstacles that we have to face. But I think in practice, it's possible. It's possible.
So talking about the connectivity and integration, not just in Thailand, we have to talk about ASEAN as a whole. How are we doing with our neighbors?
In which sense?
Have we started really connected to them
Okay.
at the moment?
Well,
According to the roadmap, right now, 2013, a lot of things have to start connected and...
Yeah, the thing that we need to understand is within the framework of ASEAN, there is this master plan on ASEAN connectivity, right? Which has become the Bible of
Right.
all the agencies involved
Right.
in saying, okay, this is how we're going to move towards the ASEAN economic community. But if you look at in more details, if we talk about like physical connectivity, there is physical connectivity. There might be some problem in terms of the different level of infrastructure development between neighboring countries. We also talk about institutional connectivity, and maybe that's where it's the most complicated.
Right.
Because it's about agencies working together
Right.
across countries. And the biggest challenge is this: how can we achieve institutional connectivity with other countries if the connectivity between agencies doesn't exist even in our own country?
Right.
That's a key challenge, because logistics doesn't belong to one ministry or one agency.
Right.
It cuts across such a number of agencies that it becomes very difficult to know who should take the lead
Right.
in terms of logistics. Should there be a particular agency to take the lead? And that is why we're struggling, in fact, in terms of the connectivity, because we're seeing a lot of projects such as building like new customs posts, new ports in neighboring countries, new road, new bridges. But that's relatively easy.
Right.
As long as you have the funding for it, you
Because
can
it's
always
just the
build.
infrastructure.
It's tangible. But the non-tangible aspect, which is usually the part that affect the most service providers, importers, exporters, because you have all the rules, regulations, the documentation
Right.
that will come in, and at the end of the day will become probably one of the biggest barriers to this connectivity.
There's also in the paper by ASEAN US Technical Assistant and Training Facility, which I found out later that you were one of the people that did that research, saying about this more than 30% of the total export logistic costs derive from the rules and regulation. How can we fix that problem? I mean, in each country separated, we can just talk about Thailand first, of course. It's a policy from top down, right? How can we fix that, and how can we expand it in the regional aspect?
I think the thing that we need to first understand is the motto at the moment is everyone needs to try to reduce their logistics costs.
Right.
It has become a mantra for all the various countries, especially here in Thailand, where we have seen the numbers go down very quickly, from 19% of GDP to about 16 to 15% of GDP. I'm not going to comment on the way how they did it.
Okay.
But the point is this, is we need to understand that when you look at logistics costs, there are costs that are internalized, internal to the service provider or the manufacturers that he can control up to a certain extent, such as transport costs, inventory holding costs. If he's able to manage it, then he's able to reduce it up to a certain level. But there's another cost, the transaction cost of going through a number of administration,
the
paperwork,
procedures.
all the under table that still exists. And I think this is where, if the governments are really serious, it's not the duty of the government to tell the private company, please reduce your costs. No, it's the government to say, how can I facilitate and reduce all these various rules and regulations? Because if you look individually, all of these agencies do not take a lot of money individually. But as a total cost, then it can represent a substantial amount of the logistics cost itself.
Right. 30% is a lot.
Of the logistics cost, yes, it's a lot.
Kun Chalermsak, as the person that working on this every day, do you see any changes yet since they start talking about this? Or do you see a light of change?
In terms of policy, we have seen a lot of framework of discussion actually. I mean, regionally that they try to, find the direction that we should move forward. But in terms of practice, that they really, you said top down, right? How they run this kind of mechanism on the daily level, on the operational level, we don't really see actually such a big change. But as Ajahn said, I think one of we are talking about cost. That's one issue, right? I mean, it's incurred as
It's not just talking about money though, it's talking about time as well.
Yes, we are talking about speed, right? Once you have your product is stuck somewhere. So
you're already losing
speed
your
also means cost.
competitiveness.
Yeah,
yes,
right. This is also a critical issue as well.
So as the business operator, do you see any light of change? I mean, besides talking.
I think it will take some time.
So it's mean you haven't really.
I think in ASEAN we try to harmonize.
Right.
We try to be the same type of person, type of national, regional, area. But in practice, it's not easy because we are still much different.
Right.
The language, the currency. And
but
the behavior.
that is also another pillar of ASEAN community. There's also socio-cultural, there's the diversity, but that should be somehow work as a complement.
Yeah. But I think it's still.
Oh, it's more about policy and how we work with each other.
Policy-wise, I think it depends on the government, right? How they drive.
Yeah.
And
well, I think it's not a problem, but ASEAN, the focus has been on the ASEAN economic community.
Right, so it has to be as a big picture as a whole.
Yeah, it has to be a big picture, but not only the ASEAN economic community, at the end of the day, what ASEAN wants to achieve is the ASEAN community.
We want to compete to other regions as one.
We want to integrate.
Right.
But if you look at the various policies at the moment, majority is biased towards economics issue.
Right.
And there's a very small number of policies related to this sense of community
Right.
All of these needs to go hand in hand. But I think ASEAN is very pragmatic. I think we're all business people here, so we need to focus on the business first.
And
then after that,
together.
environment can come. And then after that, community can come. I think it's a choice that was made by the various, ASEAN governments.
Right. Okay, we're going to take a very short break and we'll come back and talk more about this. Don't go anywhere.